Hey guys, Prowl1701 here, and today on Face Off I'm going to be asking the question. Actually, let me put my glasses on because I can't read it. There we go. Do you think they should remake missing First Doctor stories with new actors like David Bradley, etc., and modern film techniques and special effects like If Dalek's Master Plan, Mythmakers, or Marco Polo were made today? This was an interesting one. Of all the polls I've done, this one might be the closest one. It's practically a three-way tie. They're close. And I'm going to change up how I do this by discussing the poll, discussing your comments, and then giving my thoughts at the end. Because 38% said, hell yes, 21st century First Doctor stories. 31% said, hell no, an insult to the original version of the stories. And 31% said, I'm not sure how I feel about this. That's close. So 38% in favor, 31% not in favor, and 31% not sure how they feel. That is close. I don't know if I've ever had one that's almost a three-way tie like that. So that was incredible. That was the thing I really enjoyed when I was following this poll as it's been going. I let it run for about 3 weeks. The interesting thing is, even though the in favor of remaking the episodes won the poll barely, I have noticed looking at comments that people tend to have different ideas about how the episodes should be remade. Excuse me. What would be acceptable, what would not be acceptable, what they adamantly wouldn't like, what they adamantly would like. For instance, I think, some people want it to be kind of like the Mission to the Unknown recreation. It's got to look like that. It's got to be in black and white, in 4:3, with old school camera techniques. I mean, some people even want the flubbed lines in there. It's got to be as perfect as you can get, like you could practically lip sync the original audio to it. Whereas some people might want it more like the recreated 10th Planet shots used in Twice Upon a Time, where it's modernized. It's filmed in camera in 16:9. There was actually a lot of scenes filmed for Twice Upon a Time taking place at the end of 10th Planet that wasn't actually incorporated into the episode. We do know that. So it would be like that. It would be, modern camera, modern music, in color, in 16:9. Kind of what would they have done with these episodes if they had had 2022 technology to make them with. So kind of a reimagining. And then a lot of people fall somewhere in between. Like maybe old camera angles, but they don't mind it being in color. So let's go and have a look at what you think. Let's see. Whew. Henry Adam Andrews says, personally, yes, David Bradley has already shown he's a good First Doctor, so why not celebrate the 60th, have a whole new cast, revive lost episodes, or something else I've thought of a few times. Have new cast as old characters with new adventures. For example, the Lost Adventures of the First Doctor with David Bradley. Matthew Hill says, I prefer animations. I like to have the original audio. Fair enough. I know most of us expect to get more animations in the future, but the truth is there are a few stories that may never be animated for a variety of reasons. One thing is for sure, if they did this, I would definitely buy it. Me too. Bananas Are Good, one of my regulars, says, I'm in two minds on this, always have been. I can see why it would be insulting to some people, but on the other hand, I think since David Bradley has played the First Doctor on screen now, it might be okay to remake missing stories. But I would not want modern effects, etc. I would want it done like the Mission to the Unknown remake was done. And also the extra clips from Day of the Daleks, where they look old and incorporated in. All done on old-fashioned cameras, practical effects, even deliberately wonky effects too. Boom mic in the shot and shadows from the cameramen like you see in some Hartnell stories. Oh, and deliberately flubbed lines too. Actually would love a recreation of the massacre in Marco Polo. See, he very much wants it to be as true to the original as you can, camera scripts and all. Shamrock Particle says, based on the remake of The Power of the Daleks, where even the setting was changed to Earth. Oh yeah, that was like a fan remake, wasn't it? I was soured to the idea of remakes, and yet that mission to the unknown was redone pretty well from what I remember. Still, I'm on the fence. Just one without the pointy things, or 50,000 volts, since those would hurt. Art the Green Wolf says, on one hand, this would be awesome in theory and could even get New Who only fans into classic. That's a good point. Like labeling this collection of Mrs. Stories Doctor Who The Lost Stories. That and David Bradley, despite the, shall we say, stereotypical of the time touch they gave his version of the First Doctor in Twice Upon a Time, is a really good actor for portraying the First Doctor. True. That being said, there's an argument that this would devalue the Lost Stories, especially since there's just a charm to 60s Doctor Who that has never been able to be replicated. I do like the kind of teleplay vibe it has to it. Heck, I think, especially in the Second Doctor era, no other actor will be able to portray the Second Doctor properly. I agree. That's why this poll is about the First Doctor. Nobody can be Troughton. Troughton is just Troughton. No one else gets to be Troughton. So much of what made the Second Doctor work was the charm of Troughton's body and facial language, which is something I've pointed out in my videos many times as well. So overall, I'm going to say that I am somewhat more in favor of doing them, but it has to be done with the utmost care and precision. Also, they could use modern cameras, but it has to be in black and white. If they did this in color, it would definitely devalue. But they could do the same thing they did with animations and have both color and black and white versions. Neat point. Yeah, there's a reason why this was polled specifically about the First Doctor. You can't replace Troughton. Don't even try. Steven says, I would totally be in favor of remaking them, but it almost certainly won't happen due to expense. This is true. One thing, though, I think gets overlooked whenever this gets brought up is that animation at least keeps the original prominent surviving parts of the episodes, that being the audio. So they are always going to be closer to the original because they are partly original, whereas a remake wouldn't be. That's true. Good point. Colin, who is also one of my patrons, says, I like the idea in principle, however, it would be clear that it's a modern reinterpretation of the episodes. It would be amazing to watch Master Plan or Mythmakers or Marco Polo, but I almost feel like Modern Who lacks the budget when compared with some of the shows that the big streaming services are putting out. Yeah, the BBC always seems like it doesn't have the money, and it shows in the special effects big time. So if they were done sympathetically, probably in black and white with the right cast, then maybe it could work. But it's a huge risk. Problem being, says, I don't see why not, so long as they don't try to improve it, he puts it in quotes, has to be done authentically and respectfully, and the original audio recording should be included in any release, even if it's just extra content. That's a good point. I like that, to have the original audio as extra content. But who wouldn't want to see these stories come to life? If it works, do more. If it doesn't, don't. Good point. I like your reasoning there. Paul, one of my fellow YouTubers, says, I would have to say no at the moment because I'm still hoping that they carry on with the animations, to be honest. But if it's true the animations have fully stopped, then yeah, I think I'd be up for it if the BBC has the money to do it. To be fair, if the BBC doesn't have the money for animations, they definitely don't have the money to remake episodes. Jacob Reed says, I don't know if they have the budget for that, considering they don't even have the budget to create animation recreations. As I just said. I would like to see a prequel about Dr. and Susan pre-Cole Hill with David Bradley, though. That'd be interesting. That would be interesting. Robert says, I voted yes, but only if they stay true to the original scripts and audio stories. I.e., no changes for the modern agenda that is out there at the moment. I imagine the effects would be improved upon, but that would be the only thing I would be happy to see tweaked, so long as it does not become detrimental to the vision of what the original version of the story was. TARDIS Spider says maybe the next step in computer animation will be neat, and something more realistic would sell. Hudson Media, another fellow HooTube channel who does a lot of really good Doctor Who music, actually, remixes and original music, says, not necessarily an insult to the original stories, but I'm invested in wanting to watch them because it's got the original cast and production standard. Watching an imitation of that would take me straight out of it. I'd much prefer animations. H.G. Wells 1899 says every classic movie gets a remake. Why not classic TV? Trouble is the purist wanting 4:3 black and white, few edits, no CG, as we've seen some of in there. Because they've studied the shooting scripts and seen the set design or heard about them from someone who did, and now that has become their headcanon and that's all they want to see, and they've convinced a whole section of followers devoid of imagination and obligated to be told what to think, desperate to be considered real fans, whatever that is. It's their way or no way. And he says, screw the purist. I'm a fan of Peter Cushing's Dalek Invasion of Earth, for example. I think classic Doctor Who is overdue a reimagining, not just a shot-for-shot remake. Who even thinks like that, and why are they controlling the narrative? Because all that behind-the-scenes stuff that we all enjoy in the target novelizations, the react videos, the reviews, the reissues, and the box set, all of that stuff is new content, a new way of re-examining, of retelling the same old stories, keeping the subject alive for those of us who know already, and a new way in for those who are unfamiliar and disinclined to watch the old, outdated, slow stuff that we keep telling them is so great. A new light to shine is what we're all looking for, and exactly what the suggestion is here, with new actors, new script, new special effects, old stories. And then he goes, P.S. it'll never happen. I like how well thought out his argument is, though. I like, because if the new people, if the purists, as he calls them, if the people who strictly only want them done the old school way don't like them, they don't have to watch them. They could always stay with the reconstructions of the target novels or whatever, and let a whole new generation that perhaps that watch modern Who watch these stories as a great way to segue them into classic Who. And then he comments down later, he goes, Christ, only now reading the other comments and it's clear, they're here! The wannabe purist sticking to the narrative. Strange the lack of imagination it takes these days to be a fan of Doctor Who. And my comments were, the option for having the remakes is beating the option not to right now, though some people's opinions vary on how they should be remade. The remakes, if ever done, will never please everyone. That's what I actually wrote right here. And that's true. The remakes, if ever done, will never please everyone. And that's probably a reason why they'll never do them besides just budget, is there's always going to be somebody that is not done the way they like. There's no way you're going to please everybody. Cody W1, another fellow Who-tuber, says, no, they can't even make anything good. Imagine how awful they'd be. No, he says, no, they can't even make anything new good. Imagine how awful they'd be. Glass half empty. I think in that one he's glass completely empty. Mikey Elliott says, I don't think it's fair to the original production because they spent months filming it, and I would hate it if someone replaced Patrick Troughton as he is one of a kind. Completely agree. Exactly why this list is only about the first Doctor. Which is actually what I said. That's why the question is specifically for the first Doctor. No one can replace Troughton. He goes, oh, I didn't read that properly. Kenneth says, I'm not sure why you're so hung up on David Bradley. His performance bears only a passing resemblance to Hartnell's. He misunderstood the question. I would rather see this done with an actor who could do a much more authentic first Doctor. And then he says, I'm also sick and in a crabby mood, so I might feel different about this later. And then I pointed out, I'm not hung up on Bradley. I did a face-off between him and Herndl, and I like Herndl better. I do like Herndl better. And he's like, fair enough, I remembered that wrong. Stephen Crane, who is not only one of my subscribers, but one of my top-tier patrons, says, not if they were modernized stories. Do it as the original stories were intended to be seen, or don't do it at all. I think he doesn't trust them not to screw it up. I know Stephen's, I don't think he's quite happy with the direction Doctor Who's been the past few years. Joshua says, no, that would be too disrespectful to the original. 1970s retro kid says, yes, but not by the people who make New Who. And I just wrote, that's fair. And then Alice Collins, who is another one of my patrons, says, absolutely not. So we have some interesting points here. Lots of different opinions. And even though the consensus is heck yes, well, I won't say consensus because it's so split apart. So 31% is not sure how they feel, 31% is against it, 38% is for it, but that 38% is very fragmented on how they would want it done. So while it looks like they're the majority in the vote, that's several different subsets of yes, I want it. You have, again, the purists, the people who want it old school, flood lines, mic in the shot, everything. You have the people who want it to look totally new, like it had been made in 2022 with new effects, new actors, new camera in color, 16:9, HD, 4K. And then you have people who want it somewhere in between that in varying places. Some people are cool with an option for color or black and white. So that's interesting. Me, I don't know. If they remake them, however they remake them, I will watch the first one and give it a shot. I'm fine either way. If they do it old school, I don't necessarily need the mics and the shot and the flub lines. But if they do it, you know, making it look like it was made in like the 60s, I'd watch it. If they did it making it look like it was the Twice Upon a Time recreation of 10th Planet, I would watch it. I don't really have a preference either way. I would be just happy to see them do it, and that's probably not going to happen because of money. But it's interesting to get everybody's thoughts on this and to see that not only is the poll, probably the closest poll I've ever had, is practically a three-way tie, but even the one that slightly won is fragmented into several different versions of what everybody wants. And the bottom line to me that I've taken out of this poll is if they ever do make these, which they won't for budget reasons, but hypothetically if they ever do, there's going to be people who are going to be unhappy with it, who are going to think they did it wrong, who are going to think they should have done it this way instead. There's no way you're going to be able to do this and make everybody happy. And the BBC probably knows this, and that's another reason they won't do them. Why should we spend all this money that we don't have to remake something that people are just going to bitch about? Far too many people. So yeah, I feel like they'd be shooting themselves in both feet to do this, sadly, because there's always going to be part of the fandom that's not going to like the end product because they have their own version of how they think it should be in their head. They may still buy it, but they're going to gripe about it. So that's my thoughts on that. If you did not get a chance to comment in this poll, I would like to know what you think of this. Other things to do, click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications. That helps me out, and I certainly appreciate it. We're almost at 800 subscribers. Almost. Help me out. Plus, it helps me with the YouTube algorithm, the evil YouTube algorithm. I also have a Patreon. If you like what I do and would like to support what I do, there's a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to two of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane and the Fifth Doctor. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. I also have a P.O. box. If there's anything you would like to send me, you can find that down there. I love getting stuff. I love doing unboxing videos. It makes my day. And I also have a link to my Amazon wish list down there as well. I update that regularly. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.